Hi, okay. It's working. I think I'm in the right direction and I think it is moving. I'm not frozen. So hopefully you guys are all finding me again. Hi Monique. Thanks for hanging out. Hi Melissa. So I'm Janet Raptis. I'm an energy healer and a psychic medium, and I also help people to access and understand their intuition, and I help them to develop it in a way that feels safe and good to them. And every Tuesday I do a Facebook Live, and I share a little tip on how to work with your intuition. So today's is it your intuition or is it a trigger? And this is actually a really, really big topic that we could probably spend many episodes on, and most likely will. But I'm going to give you like a quick overview of how to start being able to discern. Is this fear or is it really my intuition? What's going on? And so with your intuition, the one thing that is most important to remember about it is that when you get an intuitive hit, it feels clean. It feels like the information was just dropped into you. There's no grip to it. There's no charge to it. It might feel good, like a settling in, but it will feel clean. So when you're dealing with an intuitive hit that has to deal with, or when you're dealing with intuitive hit, it's clean. When you're dealing with fear or a trigger, the first thing that you'll notice that there's a very big emotional response to it. This could be an actual physical, visceral response. You might notice your nervous system kicking in. You might notice a fight or flight response coming on. You might notice a major temperature change in you. And also you will notice that you become very mental with it. So in an intuitive hit, it's like it drops into your knowingness, it drops into your awareness, but you don't process it. You don't need to spend time on it. You don't need to analyze it in any way. Whereas when you're dealing with fear or a trigger, you'll notice that your mind will start to wrap itself around it. It will almost grip it. You can almost feel like energetic claws going into it, and there will be like a ruminating process that comes in. What happens a lot of times, and this is where it can get a little difficult, is that you'll get an intuitive hit, and that intuitive hit will then trigger a fear. So when this happens, so say that you meet someone and you feel really comfortable with this person immediately. You get a really great feeling like this person is someone that I want to be around. And then you're talking to the person, and the person says something that that might trigger you. Maybe the person talks about something that has happened to him or her that will cause you to have a negative response towards this person, where all of a sudden you feel like, oh, this person's a horrible person. What the hell am I doing with this person? And your mind might start to go into a spiral, right? And it's like Lee just posted, it's very constrictive. All of a sudden you've tightened in on this. And what will happen is when you're in a trigger or when you're in fear, is your mind will start to give you justifications, rationalizations. It will start to, it'll want to talk you out of whatever's going on. And the truth of the matter is that person might be a very good person for you, but that person has triggered a response in you that is causing you to feel fear. Now, of course, in a situation like this, you want to be really careful with it, because you want to make sure, like, is this person really not good for me, or is there something else going on here that I need to look at? So with a trigger or a fear, you always want to go into it and sit with it and ask yourself, what really happened here? Why am I feeling this way? What happened? And a lot of times, if you start to follow the thread of the fear or the trigger, you can get to where it came from, right? And so one of the things is that if you have a lot of trauma and or a lot of chronic stress in your background, if you're a chronic worrier, it would behoove you to do some healing work, to do some core emotional healing work, to do something where you become aware of what your triggers are. Because a lot of times when we're working with intuition and triggers, we may not even be aware of them. But you want to, as you're working with your triggers, you will start to understand patterns and constriction. Now, going back to the example that I gave before, when you're talking to a person and everything felt really good at first, you got a big hit of a yes for this person. Now, part of this could be that this person is challenging you in some way to grow and expand and to move out of your comfort zone. And that situation might also elicit a triggered response in you because it might be scary on some level. So you can go back and you can look at it and you can go into when the hit came in, when the actual real hit came in. What was the knowingness within it? How did it feel when it came in? Did you have an expansive and open sensation around the energy of that person, or if it's a situation or an opportunity? When the hit came in about it, did it feel clean? First of all, that's the first thing you're going to ask. Did it feel clean? And then you're going to ask, was it an open and expansive feeling? And if it was, then you can go and you can tune into that and you can trust that experience that you had. Now, when you, let's say that you have an experience where you meet someone and you get an immediate, like, get away. This is not a good situation. And you're trying to discern, is this a trigger or is this an intuitive hit? It's the same thing that you've probably gone into, or you may have gone into a triggered response with this, right? Because if you think this is a bad person, and then if you especially are still dealing with unresolved trauma or pain, it could elicit the nervous system response or any other number of things going on. So when you're looking at that, you do the same thing that I explained previously with the other hit. You're going to go back to before the ruminations, before you started trying to analyze and stick into the information, and you're going to ask yourself, what was the clean hit? In last week's episode, I talked about how an intuitive hit is devoid of judgment, because our tendency sometimes is to attach judgment to it. You get a hit, this person's not good for me. And all of a sudden you can go into, this used to be my story a lot. I'm just, I'm making this up. I'm a bitch. Like, I shouldn't be thinking these things. I should give her the benefit of the doubt, so forth and so on, right? And a lot of times I would go back and, a few months later and be like, oh my God, I knew it, right? So in that case, what you want to do is you want to go to right when that hit came in. Did that hit feel real? Did it feel clean? Was it truly information from spirit for me? And you can go in and you can notice that moment. And then you can look at, is there a trigger associated with it? And as you look at the trigger, you'll see that there's a clear intuitive hit, and there may also be a trigger or not. And you can separate those things, and then the discernment comes in, if that makes sense. So kind of to sum up, and if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm looking at the comments. I'm happy to ask because this is a complicated topic. But to summarize, the intuitive hit feels clean. It feels open. It feels expansive. And it feels like it literally was just dropped in. Like somebody may have been standing above you and just plunked this hit into your consciousness. And it may come that way. It may come as a knowingness, a deep knowingness. You may see something. You may hear a word. You may hear yes, or you may hear no. You may hear get out. You may hear, oh my God, this is wonderful. So just knowing also how your intuition works and how you get the messages. But regardless of whether you see it, hear it, have a knowingness of it, have a feeling of it, it will have that clean feel to it. So that's another way that you can always go back and you can ask, like, does it feel clean? And you can tune into the energy of it, because when you're dealing with the intuition or with the fear or the trigger, just notice that there's like a gripping with it a lot of the time. So let's see what Lee's question is. Would you say a good barometer is your immediate lack of attachment to the information? Yes, that's a great way of summing it up, Lee. You have no attachment to it. Even if it is something that is very important to you, even if it's the type of hit where it's like, this is a dangerous situation, get out of it. So, right, you may, after the hit comes in, have an attachment to it, but in the moment, you will not feel an energetic attachment to it. And if you're working with other people, if you're getting an intuitive hit for a friend or a client or someone like that, it will come through clean and it will move through you and you will not feel an attachment to it. So that's a great way of saying it. Thank you, Lee, for that. Does anyone else have a question or a comment? Also, if you do, there was just a big shift in the energy here, which is so interesting. Yeah, it feels really good. If anyone else has a question, I'm more than happy to answer it here. And also, if you have one afterwards, I'm more than happy to answer it in the comment section. And for those that that couldn't make it live, Scott's asking if it's Teddy. Teddy is a little spirit that visits with us sometimes. So if you guys don't have any more questions, thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I'm really, really grateful. And I look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you.